California, I mean, I remember the days when we had Republican governors out here.
Yes.
Schwarzenegger, among others. It's gone far left. I mean, literally every elected position is held by a Democrat now. But am I crazy to think there's a little hope? I'm thinking about how they kicked out those school board members in San Francisco. They kicked out that lunatic DA, Chesa Boudin. They now have this ballot proposition here, Prop 36.
36, yeah.
Which is something you and I like, yes?
Very much.
It's saying...
And not just you and
let's make crime again.
Yeah, and not just you and I. Latest poll, 73% yes on that.
So it's saying it's going to allow felony charges and prison sentences for certain drug and retail crimes that were dismissed down to misdemeanors under previous
So then
regimes.
it's really reversing a lot of the real damage that was done by the notorious Prop 47.
Okay.
That was 2014. Kamala Harris was the state AG, and that's the one that basically legalized theft up to $950 per day. Every single day.
Every day.
It's amazing.
Still a misdemeanor.
That wasn't the only thing, but that was the heart of it. So that drove all of what you see in the explosion of retail theft and then the associated drug crime and all the rest of it, right? The chaos on the streets. And so this is not totally reversing it, but doing a lot to rein it in. But the new thing it's adding is tough penalties for fentanyl, including a murder charge for dealers of fentanyl. So I was just talking to a DA, a Democrat DA in Ventura County, just up the road, and he was saying that their fentanyl arrests have gone up in the last 5 years, 4,000%. It's gone from basically nothing to a huge part of the crime problem. And so finally they're going to get the chance to charge that accordingly.
That's horrifying.
But it's amazing that you've got this overwhelming support. So to me, that is a sign that things are changing.
Yes,
Even
these mask wearers must be in favor of it.
Right, and here in LA, in a way the bigger one, because it's if you just look at the voting numbers, it's a very Democrat county. George Gascon, the DA, obviously in the news for the Menendez thing, he's going down. I mean, he's down by 30 points in the latest poll.
By the way, I want to tell the audience, we have Mark Garagos coming on after Steve. It's not going to be in this show that's airing right now. We're going to drop it, I don't know, later today or tomorrow morning. But he'll be here tomorrow morning. He's the Menendez lawyer.
Right.
And so we'll be getting deep into that. But that's a crazy case. I'm very into it. But wait, I want to tell you something about the Prop 36. So Kamala Harris was asked about this.
Yes.
And it took long enough, right? They pummeled Trump over the head with that abortion measure in Florida early on. Like, do you support it? 6 weeks? Is it too long? Is it too short? Finally, somebody got around to asking Kamala Harris, you're a Californian, you get to vote. Are you going to vote yes on this Prop 36 that has the support of over 70% of Californians? And as usual, she took a really strong stance and she was totally perfectly articulate with it. Watch.
Are you going to vote on Prop 36 in California? You are a California voter. Do California and other states need to punish drug and theft crimes more harshly?
So I have not yet voted, and I have not yet had the chance to read through the ballot. I will keep you posted on that.
I'm inspired. That's real leadership.
Absolutely stunning. So first of all, of course she knows.
She knows.
Of course she knows. This is right in her wheelhouse. She constantly brags about the fact she was a tough prosecutor. She was state AG, the biggest department other than the Department of Justice federally, etc. Right? So she totally knows what's going on here. She also knows that it is aimed directly at the proposition that she presided over as AG. That's what it's doing, is reversing the worst effects of that. Of course she knows. Why won't she say? Because just like on every other issue, she is terrified of angering and provoking the far left base of her party and the activists. That's why she can't give a straight answer on a whole bunch of these questions.
I wonder how she actually feels, because if she was wanting the penalties reduced, she must not be in favor of this. But she's now tried to act like she's John Wayne and she prosecuted transnational criminals who crossed that there border. And so like the new Kamala Harris should say, yeah, let's go for it. Prop 36, let's crack down on those criminals. But like everything else in this race, she's trying to keep her left flank.
Exactly right.
And not show them like, I'm with you, but I'm not allowed to say I'm with you.
This is the fundamental reason why she's such a disaster as a candidate, because she's just not comfortable being who she doesn't really know who she is. She's a transactional machine politician. She's going whichever way the wind blows, whatever's politically expedient. And so she can't say, because she's nervous about being herself or telling the truth. I actually think, like you, that in her heart, she is pretty tough on this stuff. I think that's
Well,
really
she
who
grew up a DA, and she
Yes.
wasn't known for being one of these left. We didn't really have the George Gascons or the Alvin
Yes,
Braggs who didn't want to
exactly.
prosecute crime when she was coming up the ranks. So, I mean, while I don't really give her necessarily credit for that, doing the job of being a DA or a prosecutor is to put criminals in jail. So she was doing what these guys should be doing. So you would think you'd look at her and say, yeah, you understand that crime is crime and it needs to be enforced. And
Yes.
but she also was running for vice president and became vice president during the whole, racial reckoning, and then George Floyd happened.
100%.
And so I don't know, because I think Kamala Harris is woke. I mean, who else would stand with these trannies with the beard and a dress on, showing their breasts in front of the White House and think it's fine, other than a woke person?
So there's a couple of things. So first of all, I think that she's definitely in. When you look at there's a really interesting thing. If you watch all these clips now of these disastrous performances, one of the things that is really striking is how she's just tongue-tied. She can barely speak, incoherent, unclear, inarticulate. And the CNN town hall, all these interviews, she's looking around, doesn't know how to answer the question. You compare that to some of the clips that I've seen being put out there from 2019 when she was running, when she's taking the left position. For example, on immigration, I just saw one the other day when she's defending her position that illegal immigration isn't a crime. And she's on Pod Save America. So clear, so articulate, passionate.
She is better on abortion.
So when it's a position that's on that, she is more articulate. So that tells you a little bit about who she is.
That's interesting.
But on the crime issue, there's another side to it, which is when we first moved here, 2012. I was teaching at Stanford at the time, and someone there, she just moved, she's just become state AG. She'd been DA in San Francisco. A mutual friend introduced us and said, I think you'd get along with this person who's our state AG. We had dinner. It's the only time I've ever met her. 2012, the first year we were here. And the reason that they thought we would get along, I'd just come out of the British government working for David Cameron, senior advisor in 10 Downing Street, and Kamala Harris, as DA of San Francisco, she'd just implemented a policy of prosecuting parents who let their kids persistently be truant.
Yep.
And her argument was, if you're not making your kids go to school, you are destroying their life, and I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to prosecute you. And it was mainly black parents. That actually, so she wasn't
Come
afraid
back
of
to
that,
haunt her,
right?
although not as it would if she were a
but the
Republican.
thing is that she took a position there, which you would say is the opposite of woke. She was, so I think there's a real complexity there, and the truth is she just can't be herself because she's constantly calculating.
Well, that's where
It's not
Tulsi was coming at her
there's no
from
conviction.
that debate. She was coming at her from the left.
Exactly.
Saying you were too zealous as a prosecutor.
Well, the
you were
thing
putting
on that
truant
particular
parents in
one-
jail.
Well, the parents is one thing, but the really despicable thing was on the drug crimes, where she would punish the low level, the users, but actually failed to hold accountable the dealers and the big
The worst,
drug
though, is that
gangs.
case of the one, now he's an elderly man, black man, who was accused by his stepdaughter of molesting her. And that went up the ranks, and it became very clear that the daughter's testimony had been very inconsistent about what he had or hadn't done to her. And the lawyers in the case, the DA's office, misrepresented that to the court. Court after court has found a problem with the misrepresentations, and yet she refused to do anything for this man, to take her office off of the case, to allow the appeal to expire, to let the man get his day in court so that he could actually, take on this evidence. She didn't care about him, and he sits in prison today. Forgive me because I don't have his name at the ready, but George Gage, that's what it is, George Gage.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's got, if this had been, trust me, if this had been a Republican candidate with her prosecutorial, can you imagine? We'd know everything. George
Well, and
Gage
there's
would be
so
a
many.
daily,
we could be here
household
for the
name.
whole hour talking about these instances. I mean, the child sex abuse. I mean, she goes on about how it was sexual abuse of her friend.
Yeah.
That prompted her to become a prosecutor. That was the thing that made her become a prosecutor. When she's DA in San Francisco, she took the side of the perpetrators of child sexual abuse against the victims. There was this case. It wasn't when she was there. It was a long-running case. It was the Catholic Church, and her predecessor was going to release. They took it. I think it was a Supreme Court decision. They lost the criminal, and then they wanted a civil process. The victims, and her predecessor was in the process of giving them all the information for them to take that to trial. She stopped it. She stopped it. And we don't know why. She's never explained why. But the argument in San Francisco was she was doing it in order to protect her political interests with a very powerful political lobby in San Francisco, the Catholic Church. And you've got testimony from the victims. They begged with her. They pleaded with her to let this go ahead. And she said no.
There is a lot at stake in this upcoming election, but regardless of who's sitting in the White House, the fuse on the economy has already been lit. Every 4 years, a conservative might win, but that's not enough to turn around the tide on our $35 trillion national debt. And if the left wins, it's like throwing gas on a dumpster fire. One thing you could do is to diversify your savings into gold with the help of Birch Gold Group. For millennia, gold has stood firm in the face of greedy governments, economic upheavals, and global strife, and it can protect you now. Birch Gold will help you convert an IRA or a 401k into an IRA in physical gold, tax-free and penalty-free, and it doesn't cost you a cent out of pocket. In the past 4 years, the buying power of the U.S. dollar has declined. The price of gold has gone up. Text MK to 989898 to get your info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.